For too many years, families of children with devastating illnesses have felt helpless as they watch their child suffer. Today, they're taking matters into their own hands and finally finding relief treating their child with cannabis. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode.
Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone's doing well.
Yes, to you and your family and everyone. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And also, happy Epilepsy Month awareness. And just for those families out there who are going through it, we're here for you guys and, praying for all speedy recoveries or treatments or cure anything to get you guys through it. Mm-hmm. We're definitely here and just spread the word. Tonight's guest is Parisa Rad. I apologize, Parisa Rad. Is that correct?
Yeah, Parisa Rad is fine.
Parisa Rad. Rad, that's a cool last name.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We're pretty rad.
Yes. For what we're doing this industry, yes, we are, just in general. She's known as the Marijuana Momma. She's a marketing executive and a cannabis advocate who's experienced as a mom of a special needs child. And that's what propelled her into this industry. She has so much information to share, the ups, the downs, the hurdles, just the battles that she had to overcome to make sure that her daughter gets the best treatment possible, and looking at the alternatives, which is what we're about, alternative medicines. Not Western medicine all the time can work. We have alternatives here, and that's what we're about, reaching out and, just educating people. And we want to welcome her tonight to share her story and letting us know, what her, basically what her goals are as it relates to her daughter and what the future holds.
Yes, welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that very nice, warm introduction.
Thank you.
I'm actually here with my daughter, Yazzy,
Ooh,
who
a surprise
is
guest.
the reason that I'm even named the Marijuana Momma and the reason that I'm in the industry. My daughter is Yazzy. Hello.
Hi. Yazzy. How you doing?
Good. So she's been using cannabis for 5 years now? Yeah. Wow. Since she was 14. And Yazzy was born visually impaired and with cerebral palsy because she was born at only 23 weeks gestational age, weighing only 1 pound at birth. So Yazzy's been quite a fighter since day one.
Miracle,
and just been defeating all the odds.
Yes.
And all things considered, she lived a really healthy life, But when she was diagnosed with scoliosis at age 14, we decided to have a spinal fusion surgery done. And the prescription opioids that were given to her really permanently damaged her GI tract. And so Yazzy now has a life-threatening condition called gastroparesis. Basically, she experiences a lot of the nausea and pain and discomfort that is associated with chemotherapy. She's not able to keep foods down. A lot of times she has to get her food into a surgical tube in her stomach. And so a lot of modifications because of these prescription opioids and their damage that they've done. So obviously as a parent, just, out of desperation, looking for something to help her and calm the nausea, calm the pain. And that was initially what we were looking to utilize cannabis for. But to our surprise, it also helped with the anxiety and the depression that she's lived with her whole life because of, her special conditions. It's a little bit challenging for a young adult to navigate this world, So depression was definitely prevalent. And that was something that we find to be the most magical part of this journey is her complete new attitude on life and the things that she tells me, that she's happier even now than she's ever been, and it's like, wow. And you're at home in basically a home hospital setting. We have a nurse Monday through Friday that helps with us, 9 to 5 kind of thing so that I can work. And here my daughter's living her best life still. You know what I mean? She tells us things that just any parent would want to hear their child just be happy. And I think that's been the biggest reward for us. Although, yes, it's great. Obviously, we don't want to see her suffering at all.
No.
That too. But just to have that different mental attitude and outlook that I think that cannabis really helps promote is been one of the greatest things that we found from utilizing the plant medicine. And not only does Yazzy use this medicine, but I use it as well. At the time, I was dealing with a lot of PTSD and my own anxiety and depression over a lot of things, having a child with special needs and special health conditions that you don't necessarily have a cure for is scary and traumatic for both child and parent. And I was getting prescription Xanax and things like that to help with my issues. And I was like, why am I using prescription pills anymore? I should be using cannabis as well. So, we both use the medicine 100%. And, I don't use any prescription meds anymore. I'm 100% plant medicine. And, it's thanks to Yazzy's journey with it that I really understood how this could be used in a therapeutic and medicinal way. And one of the biggest takeaways that I want people to, leave with after hearing this is that we do not light Yazzy's joints. And, that's sometimes a big misconception is like, oh, well, she must be smoking joints. And it's like, there's lots of ways to use this medicine. And, that's the number one thing that I think we educate people about is, yes, we do vaporize, but we do other methods of consumption as well. And there's other ways to use it. Maybe vaping isn't for everyone, but it just happens to be the best way for her to, really mitigate that nausea and just have total control over it herself. Since a lot of her devices, she can manage herself, they're battery operated and they're safe. And that way she can also feel independent and kind of be able to take her health in her own hands, so to speak. So now that especially now that she's, an adult, a young adult, that was really important for us, is to develop that confidence and ability to have just to care for herself in some ways. Obviously her life is limited in a lot of physical ways. So being able to empower her with the tools to kind of help her own condition has been really nice to watch her turn into a little lady and be like, I need my medicine, and really understand, when that time is that she needs to use it. That's awesome. And advocating for herself and taking those actions to use it herself. So it's been great. I'm very proud of her progress. And
it sounds like she's an inspiration more than anything else. Like, she's a walking miracle, but she's an example of what a parent is willing to do to save a child. It's like to make that sacrifice, because that comes with the stigma, and
oh, absolutely.
And we experienced it. For us, we have like the double experience. The double stigma is because we're African American, and then on top of that, we're using cannabis for our child. So it's like, oh, okay, how does that work? But
right.
The fact is that you're willing to do whatever it took, as well as dealing with, your everyday life, because you still have another child. And then on top of that, you have work and all these things and you're juggling. It's like, how do you keep yourself grounded while going through all this?
The crazy thing is that we even experienced that prejudice even within the medical community a lot of times.
Oh, yes.
For example, we have home health, as I mentioned, a nurse that comes into the house. And one of the nurses that we had at one point wasn't comfortable with Yazzy medicating. And instead of her expressing that to us and finding a new home to work in, she called CPS on me. Whoa. And that was really uncomfortable too, just having anybody question your parenting. And obviously I was scared, even though I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. That fear that we've all been taught to have around the medicine, all of a sudden my heart rate started going up, I'm like sweating, my hands are sweating. It's like, I didn't do anything wrong, but just to have that woman at my door was terrifying. And so I've really been on this mission to help empower other parents with the education. When I was able to speak and articulate what we were doing with the medicine and always referring to it as medicine. And even when she tried to question my 6-year-old at the time, she was like, that's medicine. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, drugs. Like, we don't have drugs in this house. And so I think that's, because you're right. Minority families, I feel like, have even more to fear about using the medicine. So it's really important that we educate everyone so that we know how to handle situations with law enforcement or, child protective services, whatever the situation be.
Yeah, we had that experience too, because our son had a nurse that they considered label it a crisis nurse, because he was having seizures from time to time, even in school. And so the nurse would accompany him to and from school. And we had the CBD oil with him, and we were like, can you administer? He said, no, we can't. We need a prescription. I'm like, here's a prescription. Well, we just don't do that. I'm like, you're okay with Depakote. You're okay with Onfi. You're okay with Keppra. But a plant, I'm really confused.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We've had the same thing with our nurses. I have to actually have a very flexible work schedule. That way I can be here to reload her medicine or whatever it needs to be. Even the CBD cream, they're not allowed to apply it, even though you'd be like, it's CBD cream. It's not even illegal, but nursing guidelines, they have to go by that, and I guess, and for whatever reason, it's not allowed. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. The nurses gave us the most trouble. It's so funny. I had this one particular nurse. It was like a sub nurse for Aiden. And she was like, when is he going to get, he needs to be on more meds. I said, well, he's on 3 meds. And I named the 2 pharmaceutical meds, like the low dose he was on. And I said CBD. She goes, that doesn't count. And I'm like, excuse me?
You're like, that's the one that's doing all the magic.
Exactly. And it's like, I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's
such a long way to go.
It was, and the battle for us is that we got to a point where we had to decide, because we worked like in 2 different points of this city, and so I worked in New Jersey, Nina worked in the Bronx, and our son was going to like the lower part of Manhattan. So whereas like we had to decide, well, who's going to leave work to get administer the medicine and then go back to work.
Right.
So we had to juggle that.
That's our challenge too.
Yeah.
And so that inspired us to create a bill. We actually was able to get a state senator that we established a relationship with to write a bill called S8191, which is a Townshend's bill, which would allow schools to assign someone as a caregiver.
Oh my God, that just gave me goosebumps. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so we put the bill, but the bill stalled. But what ended up happening is another senator had taken pieces from the bill itself and actually amended current laws that were already in place in the education law as well as the health law.
No way.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes and no, because they actually put it into the laws, but no one's actually enforced it to where they can go down to the schools and say, this is what's happening moving forward. Hospitals, this is what's happening moving forward. Group home or institutions that have children that are under the medical marijuana program,
God,
this is happening.
I mean, if they would just act on it, that would be amazing, because I can think of so many people that could benefit from this medicine. And
exactly.
I commend you all. What great work you guys have done.
Yes, I mean, it gave us something to think about, too, because we thought about other children that could be benefiting from it. And the parents that don't have to suffer like we do, like we did, actually, and having to go through that. And then we thought, like, oh, my God. So we actually reached out. Before we wrote the bill, we reached out to all the states. People had connected us with other families who were going through the same thing. And they were able to send us some bills that they've had or laws that they put in place in, like, I believe it was Colorado, Washington, and New Jersey, and other states. And we took pieces of that, and we created our bill from that. And we also implemented things that we believe they would need, especially, like, let's say the child's going to an off-site event.
Like a school trip or
like
something.
A school trip. So someone would have to be able to administer. And that also within the that bill, it stated that the nurse could be considered as a caregiver, and also that he or she would actually have the medicine in her office if need be.
Attention Cannabis podcast listeners. You can now listen to your favorite cannabis podcast ad-free with the MJBulls mobile app. Just download the free MJBulls mobile app to your smartphone to start enjoying cannabis podcasts with no commercials. Go to Apple Apps or Google Play to get the MJBulls Cannabis Podcast app today.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
Yeah,
it is, but politics
I
as
don't know if
politics
it's
as it is.
definitely getting. I don't know.
Well, that's the part where we talked about, like, we're going to start going to schools and start advocating and sending the message out and letting them know that it is available. So we're going to be working with some state senators, find out where they are with this amended laws and see, hey, have you guys sent out a memo?
Yeah, something for them to know that they're aware. And I mean, my thought was, asthma is very prevalent in New York City, right?
Yes.
And my thought was, how if a child had asthma and was feeling wheezing or short of breath, they can go to the nurse and get their asthma pump, no problem. But a child needs it for their seizures and cannot get it, and they have a cannabis doctor and a marijuana card, and they still can't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
You're right. It doesn't make any sense. I'm just so glad that somebody was willing to listen to you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how is it in you're in what state? You're in Arizona?
We're in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
We just passed Prop 207, which allows adult use in our state, which was a big deal at this last election.
Medically?
We've had a medical program for some time now that Yazzy's been a part of for about 5 years.
Okay.
So our medical program is really developed. We have 123 licenses in the state of Arizona. All of the licenses are vertically integrated, which means that the dispensary holder also can have a offset grow facility and a retail facility and manufacturing facility. So there's quite a few brands. Like I said, our after traveling all around the U.S. with Women Grow for a year, I realized how lucky we were, to have such a developed program and such great quality medicine here in Arizona. So we're really thankful. We weren't allowed to grow for personal use until this new law passed. So now we will have access to grow, I think, up to 12 plants per household.
Wow.
And now Yazzy will be able to actually utilize full plant medicine, like we can juice the leaves and that sort of thing that we've been looking forward to being able to do. So yeah, we're making some progress. This was a good year for that anyway. So
now, are you working with any local officials or even state level?
We've done advocacy and going down to the actual Capitol, and obviously I've testified for several different bills, and we've tried to do relationship building and bring introducing Yazzy to them and that sort of thing. We've not yet. The biggest things that we've accomplished here in Arizona were with Yazzy's help, I should say, is allow concentrates to continue to be legal. Mm-hmm. That was questionable 2 years ago. And they were saying that the current law that we had in place did not cover concentrates, and people were going to jail for possession of concentrates. It was a really big deal, especially for special needs kiddo community who all use the plant in a concentrated form, whether it's RSO or some sort, nobody's really utilizing the flower. So it was a big deal. So we testified for that, and we're lucky that that's all been cleared up and we don't have to worry anymore. Also for the testing bill, that was another one that we advocated for and testified for in front of the health committee, because our current program did not require testing of any of the medicine, which was obviously concerning for parents who are trying to get their children the cleanest option available, who have special allergies and sensitivities and things like that. Mold or pesticides could be detrimental to a special or chronically ill patient, I'm saying. So we helped that get moved. We have not worked with changing any of the school laws because Yazzy changed out of going to traditional school several years ago. And so, obviously my focuses have been in other areas, but we're a big proponent of it and would like to see something moved forward. We just haven't had the bandwidth to make any progress in that department yet. So.
Yeah, I can imagine the walls you had to hurdle to get through that.
Yeah, we've had quite a few different things to try to work on. And, you kind of have to go with the flow of the industry and who's willing to put money behind different things.
Yeah.
So obviously not a lot of people are trying to push for children utilizing the plant medicine when we have such a small percentage of pediatric patients even in the program.
Yeah.
So more so of just expanding the program, allowing a big thing was adding autism to the qualifying conditions.
Oh, wow.
There's been that kind of advocacy happening a lot in Arizona for pediatrics, but not necessarily in the school because, like I said, we have such a small pediatric population in the state of Arizona anyways that have medical marijuana cards.
That's interesting. Because one of the things we came across is the lack of, what's the word, a better word I could use for some of these officials who have the power to make good decisions, but then don't use it. But then I realized how much they don't know about the plant. It's like they're still stuck in the early 1900s. And it's amazing when you have to educate them. And it's like, I'm pulling out a tincture to give my son his medicine because it was that time. And I had this official look at me and goes, "What's that?" I was like, "That's his medicine, his CBD oil. Is this what we're fighting about?" It's like, "Yeah." Well, we got to make some changes. I'm like, "What do you think we were doing all this time? Like rolling blunts?" It's like you pull out bongs.
Right.
It's like, I mean, there's nothing against that, but this is a child. We're talking tinctures. Like, what do you guys like? Why is it that you guys don't know about these things that are the people need? Like, how disconnected are you to the people?
And, it will be so great when our industry finally has, federal standards, that we can all base this information off of, where they're actually providing. A lot of it is just you have to trial and error, unfortunately. Even with our experience with Yazzy, with the medicine, there's not a handbook. In other words, there's not anything to really educate on an industry standard. Do you know what I'm saying? There's so many, quote, self-proclaimed experts in the cannabis industry, and there's so many people that claim to know how to cure this or that or treat this or that. But I'm really looking forward to the future when there is some sort of, across the board, every state is going by the same sort of standards and same, compliance and everything. I think that'll be amazing for our industry and in welcoming new patients into plant medicine. I think they'll feel a lot more comfortable. It was very hard for us to have to be like, okay, well, we'll try this strain and hope that works. You know? I mean, nobody's really out there to guide you. You'll be lucky if you get a good bud tender that knows their stuff, and most of them are just going off their own personal experience with smoking it or something. So
that is true. We've had that experience. Like, no, my strain's better, my strain. And we've had the experience where we use a particular product. We've used so many, and it'll start working. Then a month later, when you're ready to get another bottle, comes back and you use it. It's like, whoa, hold on, we're having a relapse. What's going on? And my wife, Nina had the fortitude of looking at the bottle and noticing that there was a change in the ingredients. Like, what are you guys doing? How do you change an ingredient or add an ingredient? And then the other part is that, we ran out of that particular strain you were using for a while. So no heads up, how do you, so it's like, there has to be some consistency within this industry, first and foremost. And also try to, those individuals who like, I'm looking to make a quick buck, you gotta go because you're dealing with people's lives here.
Right. Absolutely.
It's nuts. Now, with Yazzy, like, what was that one day? Because I know for us, we always had looked forward to one day Aiden be able to say, he always said mommy, but like daddy, or be able to take some normal steps because, his seizures, it made him very weak. He was also prone to dropping. The seizures would just cause him just to like his whole limbs to go weak and he just hits the ground. And so we were looking for that day where he's able to walk through the halls and not have to hear a thud, or that he's able to say a few words. Now for Yazzy, like, what was that one moment where it's like, oh my God, we're onto something?
I think we found relief really soon on from the nausea and pain. So the nice thing was they recommended to us, which I was shocked because she was age 14, And he said, get her a vaporizer, get her a volcano.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, a volcano? I was like, geez, that's a little, oh, no.
You're like,
this is too serious. It's getting too...
Yeah, I was like, she's only 14, guys. I don't want her, like, going all crazy with this. And, you know, I came home and told my husband, and he was just like, what? That doesn't seem right. And we were like, okay. So we went and got her, like, a vape pen at first because we were just really, like, uncomfortable with it. We were like, oh, my God, everybody's going to judge us. This is crazy. And so we got her a vape pen, and I remember she took a couple pulls off of it, and almost immediate was like, wow, I feel a little bit better. Like, I like, it's amazing how quickly you can really feel the effects of the cannabis, especially as a new patient. You know, she was able to, we were able to gauge what was making her feel better or not really quick on. And we did move up to the volcano because we did more research that, you know, the flower is really good at helping with nausea control more than, I don't know, this was a research study that we'd read out of Israel. And so we were working with a cannabis nurse at the time, and she suggested it. She got a special strains just for nausea. And lo and behold, you know, it was really helpful. And, you know, obviously we've progressed since then to other things, but we were always down to try something new that might help and be stronger for Yazzy, so she doesn't have to be sitting there vaping all day, because that's kind of what she was doing before. Now she's using concentrates, and she has a battery operated vape device that's called a G Pen Connect, and that's her current favorite device.
I love that one.
She loves it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because it makes me take good puffs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It helps her give her puffs. So the Puffco was another one that we liked for a while. That was really good. But then she found that the G Pen gives her a stronger puffs, as she says. So we, you know, but Yazzy's got a lot going on. She's got 16 metal rods in her back. And like I said, she has a surgical, you know, feeding tube in her stomach. And she's hooked up to formula, you know, most of the day. So our lives are a little bit different. So she needs a lot more cannabis than maybe, you know, an average pediatric child starting now. And especially now she's growing into becoming a woman, and, you know, she's an adult now. So obviously we do like to talk about pediatric, but Yazzy is, I always like to point out that she's now an adult and can make some of these choices for herself and kind of help us, you know, on this journey of healing. So,
oh my God. I mean, for her to get to this point is amazing in itself, and then she'd be able to, you know, express everything is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we really appreciate you guys so much for having us on to talk about our story and share some of this information. And honestly, I'm just inspired by you and all that you've done over on the East Coast. You know, we'll have to bring you over here to help us talk to some of our legislators. So
definitely,
we
welcome that
happening over here.
Yeah. So if people want to get in touch with you and to talk to you about what's going on in Arizona, how would they be able to reach you?
Well, we have social media platforms, thankfully. I love social media to be able to connect with people. You can find me on Facebook as the Marijuana Momma, or you might put in the search box, the MJ Momma, and it'll pop up. And then on Instagram, it's the Marijuana Momma. So DA, Marijuana Momma, all one word. And you can find Yazzy on Instagram at Yazzy Rad, YAZYRAD.
That is awesome. So awesome. Got to get that trademarked.
Yeah.
All right. We appreciate you both. Love from the East Coast. And definitely hope to meet you guys sometime in the near future.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. After all these COVID crazy days are over.
Yes, agreed.
We have family.
All right. Wish you all the best. And Yazzy, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for coming on, Yazzy.
Yes, awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.